Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us, coming to you once again from our fantastic central Washington location. Hey, we're going to talk about the Donald Trump verdict. Just kidding. Actually, that would be about a 3-hour video. I could go on and on and on. But we are going to talk about one of the fallouts from the Donald Trump verdict, which is now the state of New York is moving to revoke his firearm license and to confiscate or order him to surrender all of his firearms. I don't know how many President Trump owns. I'm assuming he may own a few. But you see, this is really indicative of a much larger problem, not only with what happened with the trial system as a whole, but a much bigger problem when we take a look at the big picture stuff as to how we are dealing with nonviolent felons and how we are stripping them of inalienable rights when, in fact, there's no historical precedent whatsoever. And what's happened to President Trump, or a byproduct of what's happened to President Trump, is a classic example of why we really need to seriously revisit this issue. So today, let's spend a few minutes, let's educate ourselves, and let's talk about why President Trump losing his gun rights is bigger than you think. Okay, before we get going too far down the road we're going down, proud to announce that this video is being brought to you by Right to Bear. That's right, legal protection for self-protection. Listen, good lawyers aren't cheap, cheap lawyers aren't good. You're not truly prepared unless you have Right to Bear back you. You will always get an attorney-answered hotline, so you will always have a confidential phone call. There are no cap limits for either civil or criminal defense. This covers all forms of self-defense. So from a fist to a firearm, from a fat lip to a dead body, you are covered, and you will have some of the nation's most passionate 2A attorneys in your corner fighting for you. And right now, if you visit my friends at protectwithbear.com and you use the promo code WGL, you will receive 10% off. Listen, you need to protect yourself so that you can protect them. Visit my good friends at protectwithbear.com. Okay, here's what we're talking about. We are talking about some of the byproducts of President Trump's 34 felony convictions in the state of New York. Now, we are not going to talk about all the shenanigans and the absolute abuse of the criminal justice system that actually personified that trial. That would be a 3-hour video. I will tell you, however, as a former prosecutor myself, that the amount of power that a prosecuting attorney can wield when they have nefarious intents is incredibly scary, is it not? Okay, now, as we know, the state of New York is saying, well, now, President Trump, you are a 34-time convicted felon, and therefore, we are going to need you to forfeit your Second Amendment rights, okay? And then New York, that means he has to forfeit his license to possess a firearm, because that's the way of the state of New York. And if he did possess firearms, if he actually had personal firearms, he would need to surrender those. Now, here's the point I want to make about all of this, okay? You see, this begs the question of what is the constitutionality of 18 United States Code Section 922G, which makes it a crime for any person who's been convicted of a crime which could have served more than a year in jail to possess firearms. And in many instances, those individuals are not allowed to ever restore their firearms. Now, we have a couple of very important cases right now sitting on the front door of the United States Supreme Court, including a case called Range versus Attorney General of the United States, in which Mr. Range was convicted of food stamp fraud approximately 30 years ago and yet has not been allowed to restore his Second Amendment rights. Now, in the post-Bruin world that we live in, where we're kind of going back and doing some serious soul searching, what we find, if we go back into the history of the United States, is yes, we do have a tradition of disarming certain types of criminal behavior, those which are deemed dangerous, okay? However, and I'm not even sure what President Trump was convicted of. I'm not even sure if the judge knew what he was convicted of. I'm not even sure if the jury knew what he was convicted of. But damn it, they got him, and that's what they wanted. But I can assure you that there is no such thing as a campaign violation or a bookkeeping violation or whatever the hell it was that would actually constitute a violent offense. And so you see, President Trump actually finds himself in the exact same position as Mr. Range. And they both find themselves at this very unique period of time where we are awaiting a ruling from the United States Supreme Court in the matter of United States v. Rahimi. Now, I have already predicted that Rahimi is going to lose. However, I still think that Rahimi can lose and lawful and responsible gun owners nationwide can still win, including Mr. Range and including President Trump. Because I believe if the Supreme Court truly sticks to the historical precedent that we have as a nation, then there is a historical tradition of disarming individuals that we deem to be dangerous. Now, the criteria that we used in the 1700s and the 1800s to determine their dangerousness is pretty repugnant by today's standards. But we, as a society, have accepted disarming individuals that we believe to be dangerous. Mr. Range, just like President Trump, even if you believe he is guilty of one or all of these felonies, there is nothing in the indictment, there is nothing in the evidence that suggests that President Trump is a danger to himself or others. So the bottom line is that we are doing some serious soul searching right now, and with the cases such as Range versus Attorney General of the United States, on petition before the United States Supreme Court, with a case such as United States v. Daniels on petition to the United States Supreme Court, which deals with cannabis users, and the fact that we know we're going to get a ruling in the next couple of weeks in the United States v. Rahimi, the time is ripe to go back and do a serious autopsy on all of these laws contained in 18 United States Code Section 922, including what's included in subsection G, because I believe that if we truly apply the proper historical analogs, we will see that large portions of these laws will no longer stand. Now, it appears that the good folks over at the Second Amendment Foundation are more than willing to defend President Trump's Second Amendment rights. They do have a history of vehemently defending individuals who've been convicted of non-violent felonies and trying to get their firearm rights restored. And so President Trump has an incredibly strong ally in his corner. Listen, we're going to go ahead and link up the statute down below so that you can geek out on it for yourself. This comes at an amazingly important time, and why we think that we have some big cases coming out, such as United States v. Rahimi, such as potentially acceptance of the Supreme Court of the Daniels case, or better yet, the Range case. Maybe the case that will ultimately settle this once and for all will be the case of Trump versus State of New York. Listen, if you got any more questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington Gun Law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information's down there in the description box. Maybe you got ideas for videos that we should be doing here at Washington Gun Law. If you do, go ahead and click on that link right there. Some of the best ideas we ever had weren't really our ideas to begin with. And then finally, and most importantly, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.